This right here is what I mean when I say turn your brain off. Still doesn't mean it's perfect though. Uncharted. So Uncharted is based off the video game franchise of the same name and stars Tom Holland, Mark Wahlberg, and Antonio Banderas. Tom Holland plays Nathan Drake, a young charismatic adventurer who has huge ambitions about one day finding his brother Sam. One day he crosses paths with a mysterious man named Sully who needs help finding Magellan's lost legendary fortune. But, of course, they are not the only ones looking for the $5 billion prize, and it's a race against time to see who can find the treasure and carve their names into history. Ugh, I think I just choked right there. Honestly, guys, I'm kind of a little torn about Uncharted. You know, I've kind of always had this philosophy that video game movies just don't work no matter how hard you try, but for whatever reason, I found myself kind of enjoying this movie. The other part of me, on the other hand, just thought this movie was absurdly dumb. For the most part, Uncharted feels like Uncharted should feel. It's fun and campy and at times captures what makes the game so damn likable. Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg do a pretty okay job as Sully and Nathan Drake, but for whatever reason, I kind of feel like they're a little miscast here. I mean, like I said, they do all right, but when I look at them, I just don't see Nathan Drake or Victor Sullivan. All I see is Mark Wahlberg and Tom Holland cosplaying as Sully and Nathan Drake from the games. And it's not really their fault. I feel like the decision was made by Sony because, you know, they felt like they needed two big name actors for these roles. Tom Holland is still a young and upcoming star and is still coming off the success of Spider-Man No Way Home. And while he does capture the charisma and cockiness of Nathan Drake, in some weird way, I still just see Peter Parker going on a treasure hunt and not the hero from the games. And it's kind of the same way for Mark Wahlberg as Sully. I like Mark Wahlberg. He's still one of my favorite actors working today. But he just doesn't fit the role or the vision of the character that a lot of people already have in their heads. In fact, throughout the whole movie, his character's kind of a dick. More on that in a minute. Antonio Banderas plays the mustache-twirling villain that we've seen time and time again in other movies. I mean, while he is good in the role, his character motivation is ultimately just get rich and powerful. Other than that, his character really has no merit or meaning. Some of the directions that Sony chose to take these characters to is a little off-putting to me. Like I mentioned already, Sully is kind of an unlikable dick at some points. I mean, he makes it clear in the movie that he doesn't trust anyone and he's willing to lie, cheat, and even leave people for dead just to accomplish his goals. Just felt very off for his character from the games. You know, Nathan Drake at the beginning of this movie is just a thieving pickpocket and he's got the cojones to turn around and grill Sully for being a selfish dick, when all he's done up to this point is just kind of act selfish himself. Like, you were the last person that needs to be talking to me about being honorable and not being selfish, my friend. Now, you could make the argument that Tom Holland's Nathan Drake doesn't stab people in the back and leave them to die, so, I mean, I guess there is that. And I get that Nathan Drake and Sully from the games are no saints, but when you're making a movie based on a property that's well known, maybe think about making the two main leads of said movie more like the characters they're based on. The story itself is pretty reminiscent of movies like Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Goonies and is, you know, pretty simple in its overall execution. And, you know, I'll give them props for not just adapting one of the stories from the game and just calling it a day because, you know, it probably would have been a lot easier to do just that. You could make the argument this is kind of like an amalgamation of all the games, or at least 1 and 4 from, you know, what I saw. But for the most part, they do try some original stuff here, so props to them for that. A lot of the elements from the games are also present in this movie as well. There's a lot of nods to the game's mechanics when Tom Holland is doing parkour or exploring, you know, to him dodging traps and solving puzzles. Also, for whatever reason, the action in this movie feels a lot less realistic than the action in the games. Like, the airplane sequence that we've all seen in the trailers is so absurd and ridiculous that even in a movie based on a game that's already crazy, it's so outlandish in its complete disregard for physics and gravity that some of the shit that happens in these action sequences is just laughable. Like that sequence where Tom Holland is falling from the plane. I found myself laughing pretty hysterically, actually. Because on the way down, he's just hitting and bouncing off of shit. And it's in ways that completely defy physics and gravity. Like, he should have died at least 5 times on the way down. But no, he's okay. He's just going to sit on the hood of a car that's free falling from 20,000 feet. Also, the final fight in the end involving the choppers and the 2 ships is about the same. It looks cool and it's entertaining, but it's so outlandish that once again, it just kind of takes you out of the film a bit. Like, Tom Holland is not playing a superpowered individual in this movie. He's playing a mortal human man that could die just as easily as you or me. The shit he does at the end of this movie, only superpowered individuals should be able to do. Spider-Man? Nathan Drake. Know the difference, please. This movie felt like that younger brother that wants to be just as cool as their cooler older brother, but the more they try to imitate them, the more they end up looking more foolish than they actually do cool. Uncharted is not a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. It's just a flawed, mediocre movie that's trying way too hard to imitate the thing that it's based on. Honestly, guys, if you want a good Uncharted experience, just go play the games. You'll have a much better time and you'll be in the action instead of watching it. This movie, on the other hand, is probably a better time if you're baked. Holy fucking shit, is this Indiana Jones we're watching? Oh, no, wait, this is Uncharted. Shit. Alright, thank you guys so much for joining me for my review on Uncharted. This movie was... it was alright. I know it sounded like I did a lot of bagging on the movie, but I promise you, I really did have a fun time with it. It's just another mediocre video game movie. I meant what I said. Go play the games if you want a good Uncharted experience. Or if you don't feel like playing the games, still go check the movie out. Just be aware that it is very flawed and mediocre. I feel kind of weird because this is the first time I'm reviewing a movie that... I watched second. Like, I watched The Cursed before I watched Uncharted, and here I am posting my Uncharted review first instead of my Cursed review. But I will post my Cursed review here in probably the next 24 hours. But this weekend wasn't a bad weekend for movies at all. Alright, but thank you guys so much for watching. Drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe if you're new. And as always, this is Nathan Triner. I'm saying peace, and I'll see you guys next time for more Fire Forged movie reviews. Peace out, everybody.